Good evening, welcome to the Moshiach Mystery Shiur. So this week we're going to talk more about the second Tkufa, the second era in Yemos Mashiach, the second era within the Messianic era itself. So we discussed in previous lectures and previous classes that the difference between the first era and the second era is in the first era we will still feel that we are independent entities from Hashem. However, we will fulfill Hashem's will to the greatest degree. We'll fulfill Alter Rebbe mitzvahs, and that's, so to say, the purpose of Yemos Mashiach. The second Tkufa, the second era, is a time when we're going to reach an even higher level, when we're going to break beyond the limits of nature, the limits of this world, the limits of our finite existence, and we will become one with Hashem, so to say. And our fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs won't be in a way where we feel separate from Hashem. Rather, it's going to be in a way that we're entirely one with Hashem. So that's in general we discussed in the previous Shiurim. So again, the first Tkufa, the first era, it's a time when we're separate from Hashem, but we're fulfilling His will. In the second era, we're going to reach an even higher level where literally we're going to feel that there's nothing else besides Hashem. Yeah, there'll still be a world, and will still exist, but we'll all be, so to say, subsumed in the greater reality of Hashem, of godliness. Something that's very hard to understand and relate to now. It's something that Chassidus talks about at length, and it's something that we have to work to understand and relate to. But this is going to be the reality in the second era of Yemos Mashiach. And therefore, obviously, all the laws of nature and all the limits of this world will not exist. So, yeah. So now, if you just learn, now we're going to discuss tonight is what is let's backtrack a sec. So the Rambam, he doesn't clearly talk about the second era of Yemos Mashiach. Now, why doesn't the Rambam talk about the second era of Yemos Mashiach? Because the Rambam, his goal, it's a sefer of halacha. It's a book of Jewish law, what you're supposed to do. So therefore, he describes Yemos Mashiach the very basic level. What's the end of his sefer? The sefer of halacha, of the book of Jewish laws, that there's going to come a time when we're actually going to be able to fulfill everything that it says in this book. So he's describing Mashiach at the most basic level, which is just the first era of Mashiach, where we're going to have the shleimus, we'll have the perfection of Torah mitzvahs. The Rambam doesn't get into the second era of Mashiach because simply that doesn't have so much to do with the shleimus of Torah mitzvahs, at least at the basic level. The shleimus of Torah mitzvahs is that Hashem is our king, and we are His subjects, we're His servants, and we have to do what He says. So this higher level of miracles, where we're one with Hashem, just at face value, that's beyond that's beyond just the shleimus of Torah mitzvahs. Just have the completion of Torah mitzvahs. It's a whole nother level. Yeah, so that's right. So the Rambam doesn't need to get into that. So that's the most basic level. That's the reason why the Rambam doesn't get into the second Kufa, second time period, because it doesn't have to do with the shleimus of Torah mitzvahs. However, the Rebbe adds that, nevertheless, that according to Chassidus, in fact, the ultimate purpose of Torah mitzvahs is actually to reveal how we are one with Hashem. But that's already a deeper understanding that only Chassidus reveals. This whole concept in general is really only a concept that Chassidus really explains. And therefore, the Rambam himself, who's just explaining halacha, just the basic concept of fulfilling the laws, fulfilling Hashem's will, he doesn't get into the second tkufa, doesn't get into the second era. So nevertheless, since ultimately the ultimate goal, according to Chassidus, is to reach the second kufa, to reach this higher level, to reach this level where it's going to be revealed how we're one with Hashem. So therefore, the Rebbe actually points out that you can actually find in the Rambam himself, at the end of Mishnah Torah, in the last halacha, clear indications or clear hints where the Rambam seems to actually be describing the second kufa, the second. So if you just read it at face value, you're not going to read it that way. And that's definitely not the simple way of understanding this last halacha in Rambam, this last paragraph. But Rebbe shows us how if you analyze it carefully, and especially if you compare it to the Rambam's similar statements that he makes elsewhere, like in Hilchas Tshuva, the laws of Tshuva earlier in Mishnah Torah, then we'll see clearly that the Rambam is indicating a whole nother tkufa, a whole nother era, which is a whole different type of existence. So, just to give a little bit of background, so in 1984 in Tafshin Mem Daled, the Rebbe started the worldwide campaign to study Rambam. So ideally, the Rambam campaign meant to study the Rambam's magnum opus, his main work, which Mishnah Torah, and to complete it in less than a year, about 11 and a half months. Study 3 chapters a day, and you'll finish it in about 11 and a half months. He made other cycles for those who were not able to learn that 1 chapter a day, or to study Sefer HaMitzvahs. It corresponds to Mishnah Torah. Anyway, so now every year at the Siyum of the Rambam, from when the Rebbe started it in 1984, so at the first Siyum in Tafshin Memhei in 1985, so the Rebbe said what he called the Hadron on Mishnah Torah, which basically means that he explained the end of the Rambam, gave like a pilpul, so to say, on the end of the Rambam, and he also connected it to the beginning of Rambam. So, and the Rebbe continued to do that for the following years till from 1985 through I guess it was 1991, the end of 1991. So it ended up that the Rebbe kept explaining this every single year. The Rebbe came up, so to say, with a new way, a new explanation of how to explain the last halach in Rambam. So in the different hadronim, these different biurim, these different explanations that the Rebbe gives. So you have a copy over here, yeah. So starting, I think, from Tafshin Mem Ches and on, from 1988, and leading for the next couple of years through 1990, Tafshin Nun Aleph. So the Rebbe explained this last halacha in the Rambam in such a way, especially in Tafshin Nun Aleph in 1990, the Rebbe explained the last halacha in Rambam in such a way how you see clearly how the Rambam is hinting to and he's describing the second kufa of Yemos HaMoshiach. Okay, so let's take a look. You have over here on the handout over here. So you have the entire first. You have the entire Perek Yud Beis, the last chapter in Rambam, chapter 12 in Hilchos Melachim and Mulchamos. So there's 5 halachas. So I'm not going to read through all of the halachas, but just to give you an overview. So the Rambam begins the Perek stating that don't think that in the time of Mashiach there's going to be any change in minhagei shel olam, and the way the world runs, or there's going to be any miracles. It says rather olam ki minhagei noyeg. It says the world is going to run the way it usually runs, and any time you find anything that seems to indicate otherwise, it's just some type of allegory or hint to something that's actually a natural phenomenon. And then the Rambam continues in the next halacha to talk about how before Moshiach is going to come, there'll be the war of Gog and Magog, and Eliyahu Hanavi is going to come, and he's going to announce prepare the world for Moshiach. And then in the next halacha he continues about how Moshiach is going to he's going to tell everybody about which tribe they're from. And then in the 4th halacha he says the only reason, the reason why all the sages and prophets they desired Yemos HaMoshiach, and wasn't in order that they should rule over the nations. Rather, it wasn't in order to eat and drink. Rather, the whole purpose was that they should be free to study Torah and its wisdom, and they shouldn't have anything that's going to bother them, in order that they should be Zocha to Olam Haba. They should merit the world to come, as explained in Hilchas Tshuva, as we'll see soon. Okay, so you would think after reading all of this that the Rambam is done, right? He described what's going to happen in general in Yemos HaMoshiach, the preparation for Yemos HaMoshiach, why we should want Mashiach, and then he adds another halacha, more details about what's going to happen. And he says as follows: "V'oisei hazman, in that time, lo yesham lo rav, v'lo milchama, there won't be famine, there won't be war, v'lo kina v'tachrus, there won't be jealousy, there won't be competition. Shahatoiva tiyu mushpas harbe, there'll be a lot of goodness. V'chol hamadanim mitzuin ka'afur, and all delicacies will be as common as dust. V'lo yiyeh esek kol ha'olam elo lo das es Hashem bilvad, in the sole occupation of the world will only be to know Hashem. Uleficha hiyu Yisroel chachamim gedolim, and therefore the Jewish people will be great sages. V'yodim dvarim hastumim, they will know the hidden things. V'yasigu das boiram kefi kayach ha'adam, and they will understand the knowledge of the Creator according to the capacity of man. Shenemar, as it says, ki molo ha'oretz deo as Hashem kamayim layom echasem, that the entire earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, as the sea covers the seabed. So that's the Rambam's description of utopia, of the days of Mashiach, when everything's going to be wonderful and we're just going to be, our whole pursuit will just be to know Hashem. So now, at first glance, there's nothing particularly miraculous per se about this, meaning it's definitely unusual, it's not regular, it's something that's never happened before. Statistically speaking, it's not something that seems probable, but it doesn't seem at first glance that the Rambam is saying anything that's definitely supernatural. So you don't necessarily have to, and at first glance he's not contradicting what he said at the beginning of the chapter, at the beginning of the parak, that Olam Kimin Noig. However, if we're medayik over here a little bit, if we look into it a little bit, so we'll see that it does seem that this isn't exactly congruent with the way the Rambam seemed to describe Mashiach before. So he said before, Olam Kimin Noig. Okay, the world's gonna just follow its regular course. Okay, so as I said, now you might say this is not exactly the regular course of the world, to say that it's not going to be any famine or wars or anything like that, and all delicacies are going to be as common as dust, and just the entire world is going to be just there to serve Hashem. Okay, so that's one point. There's another interesting point. As I mentioned before, the Rambam went through the whole description over here of Yemos HaMoshiach, and he finished the description, and he said that he finishes off in saying, okay, and now why should we desire this whole Yemos HaMoshiach? In order that we should be able to know Hashem. And then in the last halacha, he goes back to describing what's going to happen. It seems to be a little out of order. Seemingly he should have placed this last halacha earlier when he was describing what's going to happen when Mashiach comes. Hey should have came before Dalet. He should have said, and you know what's going to happen. There's not going to be any wars. Our sole pursuit is going to be to know Hashem. And then he should conclude, and that's the whole reason why we should want Yemos HaMoshiach, is in order to be able to experience that, and we shouldn't have any problems. But for some reason, first he has the halacha Dalet, the fourth halacha, where he talks about why we should want Yemos HaMoshiach. And then in the last halacha, he goes back to describing, again, what's happening. So this seems to indicate over here that the Rambam is hinting to a whole another later era of Yemos HaMoshiach. In other words, after the fourth halacha, he's already concluded his description of what's happening in the first kufa of Yemos HaMoshiach. And then in the last halacha, the Rambam is hinting to the fact of Ba'isei Hazman, that in that time there's going to come a later time period when we're going to experience something much greater. Okay, so that's the general idea over here. So the Rambam definitely, from just the order of the way he puts things, seems to imply that this last halacha is something unique, something new. Yeah. Yeah. So Va'isei Hazman, he seems to be hinting to the second kufa. But let's see how. So in order to see how, let's compare and contrast what the Rambam says here in Mishnah Torah and what he says in Hilchos Tshuva. So in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam makes a very similar description. So in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam in general, he's talking about what's the concept of reward in Torah. So the Rambam's position is that the reward for keeping Torah mitzvahs is not in this world. Rather, it's in the world to come, which according to the Rambam means Gan Eden. It's a spiritual world. After a person dies, then he'll experience this, spiritual bliss. Now, the Rambam says over there, so when the Torah talks about all the different things that we're going to merit if we keep Torah mitzvahs, physical things, right? It says that there will be peace, and you'll have plenty to eat and to drink, and you won't get sick, and all these things. So, isn't that reward? So the Rambam says that that's not reward. He says the concept is like this. He says that if a person shows Hashem that he is dedicated to Torah, he is dedicated to fulfilling Hashem's commandments and studying His law, so then Hashem is going to remove all obstacles. Going to remove all obstacles that would stop a person from being able to fulfill Torah mitzvahs properly. Let's see in the Rambam's words. It says, "V'ivtichanu b'Torah." The Torah promised us, "She'im nasa oisa b'simcha v'toivas nefesh." When Hilchos Tshuva here in Perek Tes Halacha Aleph in chapter 9, first halacha. So the Torah promises us that if we will fulfill Torah with joy, uv'toivas nefesh, and with like gladness of the soul, v'nega b'chachmas tamid, and will constantly study its wisdom, Hashem promises us sheyasu mimenu kol hadvarim hamaynim isanu min la'asaysa, that Hashem is going to remove all things that prevent us from fulfilling Torah properly. Kegoin chayli or milchama v'ra v'kayetza b'hen, like sickness, in war, in famine, or anything like that. V'yashpia lanu kol hatovos hamachzikos es yadeinu la'asaysa Torah, and He will give us all the good things that strengthen us to fulfill Torah. Kegoin soiva v'shalom, like plenty and peace, v'ribuy kesef v'zav, and plenty of silver and gold. In order that we shouldn't have to be involved our whole lives in things that the body needs. Rather, we'll have all the time in the world to study wisdom, to fulfill Hashem's commandments, in order that we should merit the world to come. And then he continues in the next halacha. And this is the reason why all of the Jewish people and their prophets and wise ones and scholars, it's the reason why they desired the days of Mashiach. In order that we shouldn't have the oppression of other kingdoms that don't allow us to fulfill Torah mitzvahs properly. And we'll have tranquility. And we'll be able to increase in wisdom. In order that we should merit the life of the world to come. Because in those days, in the days of Mashiach, wisdom and knowledge, understanding and truth will increase. Shenemar, as it says, Ki mola ha'aretz deya es Hashem, that the entire earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. So this is a very similar description to the Rambam's description in the end of Hilchos Malachim. Basically, the idea is that there's not going to be any wars, and not going to be any problems. We'll be able to dedicate ourselves to studying Torah, doing mitzvahs, and knowing Hashem. However, so that's generally speaking. Just if you just look at it at first glance, it seems to be a very similar description. But if you analyze it more closely, you'll notice that there's a lot of different subtle nuances and subtle differences between Hilchos Tshuva and the Hilchos Malachim. So let's go through the differences, and then we'll explain. Okay, so number one, you have the chart over here. So in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam emphasizes the entire time, The Rambam is emphasizing that what is the purpose of Hashem taking away all the issues, all the problems? He's taking away all the things that prevent us from fulfilling Torah properly, from fulfilling Hashem's will, Torah mitzvahs properly. In Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam doesn't make that, doesn't emphasize that point. He just seems to say it as something for itself. At that time, this is what's going to happen. There's not going to be war. There's not going to be famine. There's not going to be jealousy. He doesn't emphasize that the purpose is in order that we should be able to fulfill Torah properly. See, in the last halacha, he says, he says there's not going to be any of these things. And he adds, and one of the things is, that's what we're going to do. But he's not emphasizing how the purpose of all these things is in order that we should be able to fulfill Torah mitzvahs properly. So let's hold that thought for a second. We'll explain why that's so important. Okay, now another point. In Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam emphasizes who is going to get all these good things. He says, "Sheyasu mimenu kol hadvarim hamaynu ma'isanu milasaysa." He's going to remove from us all of the things that prevent us from doing them. V'yashbiya lanu kol hatayvais. He's going to give us all the good things. Who is us? Who does Rambam? The Jewish people, right? The Jewish people, right? He doesn't seem to be including non-Jews. Hashem is going to give us what we need in order to fulfill Torah mitzvahs. It really goes hand in hand with the first thing. He's taking away all obstacles that are preventing us from fulfilling Torah mitzvahs. It's not that this is not a world change. Hashem is just taking away the issues that are stopping us from fulfilling Torah mitzvahs.
Like the way it was in Shlomo.
Yeah, like it was in the way at times of Shlomo HaMelech. But how does the Rambam describe it in Hilchos Malachim? He says, at that time, there won't be any famine or war or jealousy or competition. He seems to be saying in the entire world, not only for Jews, for non-Jews as well, for everyone, it's not going to exist. It's not going to exist. It's not that he's going to take it away from us. It's not going to exist in the entire world. Another difference that you might say is that in Hilchos Tshuva, he emphasizes that Hashem is going to take it away. He's going to remove the obstacle. He seems to be saying that these things will still exist. There'll still be war and famine, and Hashem will do a favor, so to say, for the Jewish people, and He'll take them away from us. The way he describes it in Hilchos Malachim is that it's not going to exist. At that time, these things of war and famine, they won't exist. Okay, now another thing. What are the things that Hashem is going to give us? Oh, there's one difference I didn't put over here. So in Hilchos, but I'll first say the one that it says here. He says, what are the good things that He's going to give us? He says, He says, like, we'll be satiated, we won't be starving, and we'll have peace. What does he say in Hilchos Malachim? He says all delicacies will be as common as dust. So what's the difference? When you say a person you'll be satiated, there'll be peace, that implies that you won't have any problems. There will be no obstacles. There will be no issues. When you say Kol Adam Mitzuyim Ka'afar, it means more than that. Not just there's not going to be issues. It's going to be in abundance, right? More than you need, right? It's not just you won't have problems, you won't have things that are stopping you from doing what you need to do.
It already exists in a way.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kol Adam Mitzuyim Ka'afar, he's saying it's already now.
Starting, yeah.
Now, another thing along these same lines is that in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam says, "V'yashpiya lana kol hatoivos." He says Hashem will give us all the good things. Hamachzikos es yadeinu la'asos haTorah, which support us to do Torah. What does he say in Hilchos Malachim? Shahatoiva tia mushpas harbe. He doesn't say He's just going to give us all the good things. He says there's going to be an abundance of goodness. So let's just there's other differences that we'll get to in just a second. But let's just discuss this for a second. So what's the difference? So in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam is emphasizing, first of all, that this is something which is the purpose is in order that we should be able to fulfill Torah mitzvahs properly. Whereas in Hilchos Malachim, he's saying that it's just something that's going to be. And number two, in Hilchos Malachim, so in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam is saying it's something only for the Jewish people, whereas in Hilchos Malachim it's for the entire world. The third thing is that in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam is talking about only, so to say, the basics that are necessary to live a comfortable life. And in Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam is emphasizing how there's going to be an abundance. So what's behind this? What's behind this is says the Rebbe, is that in Hilchos Malachim, in the last halacha, the Rambam he's hinting to the second tkufa. So what's the difference between the first tkufa and the second tkufa? First tkufa is going to be Olam Keminhagi Noig. The world is going to operate according to nature, right? Why? Because the purpose of the first tkufa is just to have the shleimus of Torah mitzvahs. And for that, we don't need miracles. On the contrary, miracles are not necessary. We just need to, our world can stay the way it is, and we should be able to fulfill Torah mitzvahs properly. The second tkufa is a whole different level, where we're going to go beyond nature. There's going to be miracles, and it's a whole different level of connection with Hashem. So that's why in Hilchos Tshuva, where the Rambam is just describing, this is the first tkufa, the first era of Mashiach. So he's emphasizing how, first of all, how the whole purpose is in order that we should be able to fulfill Torah mitzvahs properly. That's the whole goal. And therefore, it's not important that non-Jews should have what they need. It's only important for Jews. And what's important? Only to have the necessities, the things, the obstacles. Whereas in Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam is talking about a whole world change. Therefore, there's the whole concept of Rav and Milchama. It's not going to exist in the world because the whole world is going to be at a higher level where anything negative is not going to exist. And therefore, it's not only for Jews, it's for non-Jews as well. And it's not just the basic necessities, it's an abundance because we're going beyond the limits of this world. And this connects also to another difference. So, the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, V'yubu b'chachma. He says that in the time of Moshiach, we're going to increase in wisdom. And he says, Tir b'hadeya v'hachachma, right? Knowledge and wisdom will increase. And Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam says a different term. V'lo yiyah eiseh kol ha'olam elo l'das es Hashem bilvad. He says the whole occupation of the world will only be to know Hashem. So what's the difference between these two things? So when you say Tar yubu b'chachma, tar b'hadei v'hachachma, so it implies, okay, there'll be an increase in knowledge. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the only occupation. In Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam is saying, Lo yiyah eisek kol olam elo das Hashem bilvad. That's going to be the sole occupation of the world. No one's going to do anything else.
The only focus.
That's one point. Another point is that in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam seems to be talking about only the Jewish people. He's talking about why the Jewish people, why they want Yemos Mashiach in order that they should be able to increase in knowledge. In Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam says, Lo yiyah eiseh kol ha'olam elo l'das Hashem bilvad. He says it's going to be the occupation of the entire world. Later, he emphasizes that the Jewish people will be unique, that they'll be chachamim gedolim, they'll be great sages. But the first line, Lo yiyah eiseh kol ha'olam elo l'das Hashem bilvad, the simple translation is that that's going to be the sole preoccupation of the entire world, only to know Hashem, Jew and non-Jew alike. So what's the difference? So in another place, in Pirush HaMashnayos, the Rambam also says over there, in his Pirush HaMashnayos, he also describes Mashiach. And one thing that he says over there, that even though when Mashiach will come, so there'll be a lot of abundance of goodness, but he says they'll still be rich, they'll still be poor, we'll still have to work. It says it'll be much easier, he says, it won't be difficult, you won't have to work hard. Right? With a very minimal effort, we'll be able to have what we need. But it's still going to be a regular world. Because according to the natural order, it doesn't make sense that Rambam discusses elsewhere in Pirush HaMishnayos that he says, if the entire world would just dedicate themselves to philosophy and knowing Hashem, so then no one would be able to survive, right? There has to be people, at least some people, or majority of people, that work. And then there's a select few that are able to dedicate their lives to the greater wisdoms, and other people whenever they have the chance. But what the Rambam is saying in Hilchos Malachim is that the world is going to come to a whole new level. The entire world is just going to be involved with knowing Hashem. How's that possible? It's beyond nature. So this is again another hint to the second Kufa, to the second era of Moshiach, where the world is going to be beyond beyond nature. Another difference over here is that in Hilchos Tshuva the Rambam says Yirbu b'chachma, tar b'hadeh v'hachachma. He doesn't clarify what wisdom we're talking about. And Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam says the asik of the whole world will be lodas es Hashem bilvad, only to know Hashem. So in Hilchos Tshuva you could understand wisdom as could be other wisdoms, not only the wisdom of Torah. Other wisdoms, can contribute, could add to a person's understanding of Torah. Or it could also refer to other parts of Torah that are not, so to say, just knowing Hashem. But in Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam is saying clearly, Ladarsos Hashem bilvad. The word bilvad only clearly implies that in the second Kufa, our sole occupation is only going to be to know Hashem. Everything is going to be about Yedias Hashem, know Hashem, Pnimius HaTorah, right? The inner aspect of the Torah, just focusing on knowing Hashem. So from all these nuances, the Rebbe says it's clear that the Rambam over here at least is hinting to a whole nother era, a whole nother time period as the second Kufa of Yemos Mashiach, which is going to be beyond the realms of nature. So to put it in other words, so the difference between these two Tkufas is that in the first Kufa, so there will still be a concept of evil, there'll still be a concept of poverty, there'll still be a concept of negativity, there'll still be other things besides knowing Hashem. There'll be another world, like in the laws of nature, all these things that besides connecting to Hashem. It's just that everything is going to be allow the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. It's not going to take away from Torah mitzvahs like it does nowadays. That's the first time period. The second time period, the whole concept of negativity, the whole concept of nature, the whole concept of anything besides Hashem is not going to exist.
Why is that?
Because why is that you're asking? Because as the Rambam says in the beginning of Rambam, the truth of all creation is nimtzu. The truth of all existence is Hashem. Is the truth of all existence. So we're going through different stages, but the ultimate goal is that we should be in sync with the ultimate truth, which is we're with Hashem. This connects to the last difference over here, a very subtle difference. So the way the Rambam concludes the halach in Hilchos Tshuva and in Hilchos Malachim is very similar. In Hilchos Tshuva he says, Ki mal ha'aretz deyas Hashem. The world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. And in Hilchos Malachim he says, Ki mal ha'aretz deyas Hashem kamayim layam mechasem. That the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, and he adds the last three words of the pasuk, kamayim layam mechasem, as the water of the sea covers the seabed, meaning the earth under the sea. So, what's the difference between?
What does it mean?
So what it means that just like the water of the sea covers the earth, right? Covers the earth which is under the sea, it's not visible at all. So too the entire world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, that the world is going to be completely covered with the knowledge of Hashem. Okay, so let's analyze this. So what's the difference whether you say something is full, or whether you say something is covered? So when you say something is full, so that implies that it's full to capacity, but not beyond capacity. Not beyond capacity. It's full to capacity, but not beyond its capacity. When you say something is covered, it means that, on the contrary, right? It's beyond its capacity. It's the cup, so to say, it's flowing over, and the cup has sunk, so to say, in the waters. Exactly. So what does this imply? So the difference is like this. So in the first, again, is the difference between the first Tkufa and the second Tkufa. In the first era of Mashiach, so the world is going to be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, but only to its capacity, only according to the laws of nature, which means that according to the laws of nature, people still need to do other things, right? They still need to work, they still need to do other things that are necessary for them to live. So the world's going to be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, but it's not going to be overflowing. The world's not going to be covered in the knowledge of Hashem. It'll be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, filled to capacity. In the second Kufa, which the Rambam's hinting to in the Hilchos Malacha, it's going to be Kamayim L'Yam Mechasem. It's going to be like the water covers, it's going to be overflowing. The world's going to be submerged in the knowledge of Hashem beyond the capacity of the world.
It's like you have a cup of water. Has a capacity.
Exactly.
And the it's like the cup is under the water.
That's right. So that's one difference. Another difference is that when something is full, so you still see the kli. You still see the vessel, right? It's full and you still see it. When it's covered, you don't see it, right? It becomes... So again, that's also another difference between the first era and the second era. In the first era of Mashiach, so the metzias of the world, the existence of the world as a separate entity from Hashem, will still be felt. It's only that the world will feel that it's filled with Hashem. Hashem is filling it. Hashem is creating the world. Hashem is making it exist. But we'll still feel that we're a separate entity. In the second group of Yemos HaMoshiach, so the whole world will be completely submerged in the existence of Hashem. It won't be apparent at all as a separate existence. So we see too over here, what we see over here, this amazing thing over here that the Rebbe is pointing out over here. That although in the Rambam he emphasized again and again how everything is going to be natural when Mashiach comes, but the Rambam himself not only does he lend his words in other places to imply that there might come a time, or that it's possible that there's going to be miracles and there'll be a whole other era of Mashiach, but he actually hints to it in this last halacha of Rambam, how it's literally going to be a whole different world where it's not possible to have any war or famine or all these things, and the entire world literally is going to be totally submerged in the knowledge of Hashem. And you could maybe add that we're experiencing a lot of this today, that this whole concept that there's no famine and there's no war, it's just astounding if you look at the statistics today of how literally famine and war is almost non-existent in the world today. It's almost non-existent. Going back literally 20 years, 30 years, and of course 50 years and 100 years, used to be 95% of the world was famine and war, and now literally it hardly exists in the entire world. And at the same time, talking about how the world is filled with the knowledge of Hashem, the accessibility of Torah and the accessibility of Chassidus and of Pnimius HaTorah nowadays is literally unbelievable. Now with the advent of technology, we have to be able to use it out in the right way and spread the dasas Hashem, the knowledge of Hashem, the study of Torah, and especially the study of Chassidus, Pnimius HaTorah, the inner dimension of Hashem, or dasas Hashem Bilvad, to get ready for not only for the first Tkufa of Yemos HaMoshiach, but for the second Tkufa of Yemos HaMoshiach, the second era, and may we merit that it should happen very soon.
שיבוא